I enjoyed that.
Stop
Thanks,
it.
Mike.
No,
Time to go for an hour.
quickly. 7:36. We're going to carry on talking about language, but slightly more seriously. Now, most of us have some sort of accent, but some trainee teachers from the north of England have told researchers they've been told to tone down the way they speak in the classroom.
Those with southern accents didn't have the same problem. Well, we went to Winchester and Blackpool to see what people there made of it all.
I think we should be proud of our regions, and English is spoken in so many different ways throughout the country.
If you're from the north, you don't have to change who you are to get a job.
I lived in York and people didn't understand what we were saying until we picked up Yorkshire accent and then we were accepted at school.
Well, I'd advise them not to change their accents at all. That's just ridiculous what they're doing.
If you come from the north of England, why can't you speak English with a northern accent?
I think if you've got the qualifications and as long as you're speaking clearly, I don't think it should matter.
The more sort of different accents that kids are exposed to these days, the better, really.
And then we came back down south and we talked like that and people didn't accept us, and it's all about accepting, I think.
One teacher teaching them in their accent, what does it matter?
I think no as well. We're proud of a Northeast accent and we shouldn't change it for anything.
Shouldn't change it for anything. There's a thought. We're joined now by Alex Barata, who carried out the study. Assistant head teacher James Nathan is with us as well. Very good morning to you both.
Morning.
So, Alex, tell us a bit about what you discovered. I mean, it's interesting hearing what people are saying. Instinctively, people think it shouldn't matter, doesn't matter. But what's happening in practice? What did you discover?
What I found was in the first study, which was conducted in 2 northern universities, and the second was in 2 southern universities, those who had accents regional to the north are routinely told by mentors during the teacher training to basically modify how they speak. And it's not about a wholesale change from, say, Mancunian to Cockney. It's about just simply modifying it so you still sound regional, but not too regional.
So does it break down into individual words? I mean, is that where the issue lies? Because you're not going to get... I mean, even if you wanted to, many people say you shouldn't anyway.
Right.
You're not going to get rid of everything.
No, not at all. But... I mean, phonologically speaking, there's not much information given. It seems to be about just simply sounding less common. And these are words used by mentors. Whereas the Southern speakers, accents that are routinely associated with the South, such as Medway English, a variety I didn't know about, RP, which is a class-based accent, speaking posh in layperson's terms, Estuary English, they're seen as okay. The few bits of information I had, here's an example. A teacher from the Midlands teaching in the South was told by her Southern mentor that if you wanted to speak in her normal accent, words such as bath and bus, so for her case, bath, bus, then best to go back to where you came from. And if you refuse to change, then we have a teaching assistant who can demonstrate this for the students. Bath, bus. Obviously, you're teaching phonics. We understand the importance of being understood. That is common sense. But is it really a case of being misunderstood if you say bath versus bath?
Well, let's find out from James, shall we? How did you react to this research?
I was quite surprised by it. I've had the privilege of working with people from all over the British Isles, all over Europe, all over the world in schools, and if anything, it helps to create a bit of a bond with students sometimes. We've got a fantastic young Irish teacher in our maths department who, the way that she talks to the kids is very unique and very Irish, and it immediately engages people. Our head is an incredibly broad Scot, and the fact that it creates a sort of a unity, a community, a sense of the whole Britain within a school of what I think we're after.
What about the specifics, though? Let's go back to these words. Bath. Is it bath or bath? Grass or grass? Bus or bus?
Depends if my mum's listening on
it. And if someone, say, with a northern accent is teaching a child in the south of England, or vice versa, parents, I imagine, would want their children to sound like them, wouldn't they? So if they're being taught to pronounce things in a different way, that could cause problems. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I think the pronunciation stuff comes in at primary. I think that's where it's sort of set up and built upon. By the time you get to secondary, the phonics and the language has been formed, and that's more of a case of how they grow and how they develop. In terms of what we want, I don't care how somebody speaks. If I can understand them, I'd employ a little green man from Mars if he can demonstrate great teaching and learning and help our kids make progress. That's all we really want. Is them to come forward and learn and be understandable to as many people as possible.
But the evidence you found, Alex, is that that attitude, and I instinctively everyone would say the same thing. If the children are learning,
Right.
how could it possibly matter where someone, individual words? But somebody somewhere, you're saying, doesn't have that opinion. They think that it is important.
It is. Yeah, I mean, ostensibly it is about being understood. And again, that is completely commonsensical. We want to be understood if you're teaching children, especially the primary level, teaching them phonics. But for those teachers, they feel it goes beyond that and is about certain mentors who have certain preferences.
There was an example, I think, in your research of a teacher with received pronunciation who was in an area where she felt she had to tone her accent to fit more in locally because she sounded too posh and sounded too strict. So the interpretation of her character. And James, you were talking about having people from different communities and that enriching the environment. But in this sense, it almost came out as a negative because she sounded strict.
You can make anything a positive or negative if you want to perceive things that way. If you're not being true to who you are and where your roots are from, and I've got a Brummie twang that comes through occasionally, and the kids mock me for it, and it creates a bit of a partnership in a classroom. And I don't think you can ever take away from who you are as a teacher, and it has to be linked to your teaching character and your teaching persona. And
I'm trying, Alex, where are you from?
Originally Los Angeles, but I had time here as a boy too. My mom's English, my dad's American, so I've been both places.
But is this a curiously British thing that we still are hung up on issues around what we detect about judgments we make about people according to their accents? I mean, you being American, do you have a different sensibility about things?
Well, I think it goes back to George Bernard Shaw's quote, "An Englishman cannot open his mouth without another Englishman despising him." And I think things are much better. We certainly hear a lot more variety of accents on British media. But I think these really old, hundreds of years old, maybe stereotypes still persist. Someone opens their mouth, we make these snap judgments, I think, and think, oh, common, thick, posh. Accents themselves are not one or the other. They're neutral. But they have certain connotations which are then transcribed onto the speaker. And I think that's what's happening here.
It's very interesting. You've got to get back to school, have you?
I've got to get back and teach my year 12s.
Good. Good luck with that. Thank you very much. I'm sure people at home will have thoughts on this one. I think quite a few have been coming in already, so let us know if you've got any thoughts on what